Hi, Steve. Welcome to Better with Age. How you doing?
Am I getting better with age? I don't think so, but I'm doing great this morning, because I didn't train.
Oh, okay, okay.
Actually, I'm in mental turmoil because normally I do, and I didn't, and I had an excuse. Although I'm sure as we get into this podcast, I'm going to give you loads of excuses of why I'm not doing what I should be doing.
Fair enough. When we chatted before, you told me you'd had hip issues. Can you tell me a bit more about that and what happened and how are you now?
Hip issues. I've actually had 11 general anesthetics on various parts of my aging body. Um, Probably, actually, no, there's 13 if you count my two eyes.
Oh, wow.
Um, and all have been really good. The hips, yeah. So the hips were probably a good one and a bad one. So we had two hip replacements, um, probably life changing.
Wow.
It's amazing. In fact, the orthopedic surgeon, when I had my sort of 4 week checkup, and I was jogging on the spot, he did a video and put it on his LinkedIn page because he said, I've never seen anybody recover. So if you get a good surgeon, the operation was fab. Sort of 3 months after that, I'm still back into deadlifting more than 200 kilos. So my hips are great until the 17th of December of 2024 when I went on holiday to Tenerife. Um, and I tend to push myself quite a bit in the gym, but I tend to do the same sort of schedule on weights. Um, and after a warm up on the row, it's always leg press. And I'll finish with 5 sets of 5 times 225 kilos. So I got to the leg press, and it's not the city down one, it's the one where you lie on your back and you press it above your head.
Yeah.
And I was warming up, it was 150 kilos, and I overcompressed, and my right hip, the most recent, shot out the back of its socket, and I have never known pain like it. I used to think, Stefan, I had a good pain threshold. I have no pain threshold.
Yeah.
It was a bad one because normally when you dislocate it, it'll go out the front or out the side. But because mine went out the back, it meant you couldn't straighten your leg, and it was locked on my chest. Took five of the big guys in the gym to get me out, screaming like a baby. Got me to the hospital in Tenerife, popped me off with some propofol, and I woke up 10 minutes later and I could have ran out the hospital because the hip was back in and everything felt great.
Yeah. And did the surgeon make any comment about rowing and hip injuries?
You mean following my appraisal with him after dislocating
Yeah.
it? He said,
Yeah.
well, he's not. He's an old rugby guy. I used to play with his father, and he knows I sort of take things to the extreme. Um, And he did say, don't over compress anymore. Never go past 45 degrees on anything you're doing, which I don't normally. I've been doing that leg press for ages. You know what it was? I wasn't concentrating. I was on my warm up phrase and I just let it come down. I hadn't even bothered putting the stops in
Yeah.
and I just let it come down. So I have a new motto following that. And my new motto is everything in moderation. Probably less is more.
So, given what's happened with your hips, and I appreciate, you it wasn't very long ago at all. So you've got to get your head around a whole new way of training.
No, I'm fairly confident that the hip is back in its right place. There's been no lasting damage to any of the ligaments or tendons. I've had a number of scans, and my surgeon said everything's good. So that won't slow me up. In fact, yesterday I was starting to get back into the deadlifts again yesterday, even though I swore I wouldn't, because I'm in the queue to get. I've got really bad degeneration of my lumbar spine, and I'm in the queue to get some injections in to stop the pain. Um, but because you can't really nail down what brings the pain on, I convinced myself it's not what I'm doing.
Okay.
It's just totally random, and that doing some squats and deadlifts is not going to hurt my back at all. At our age, where do you stop, Stefan? Because you'll then just what? One of the problems I've got is everything I do, I actually don't really enjoy it that much.
Okay.
I do it because it's the only thing I'm any good at. And all through my life in sport, it's always about just being the best. I'd love to have been a tennis player,
Okay.
which obviously, if you live in Newcastle, it's impossible because the weather it's cold, windy, and horrible, and we haven't got the indoor courts up here. But that's something. Paddle tennis and tennis, I actually have a smile on my face and I enjoy doing it. I'm no good at it, but I'd love to have done it. All the things I'm good at, I hate PK rowing. I hate it with a vengeance. I'll never, in fact, now I won't do another one again, ever. I swore after Boston and the World Championships, there was, what is it, 6 minutes, 20? So the first 10 seconds were fabulous. The last 10 seconds were fabulous. The 6 minutes in the middle was the worst pain. International rugby does not compare with my brain telling me to put the handle down.
Yeah.
But you know, you have to keep 135 all the way through and your brain's gone. So I'll never do that. I'm a sprinter. It's lovely and easy.
Okay. So does that mean that you're going to move more to distance and endurance?
No, it's the opposite. I'm moving more to sprints because that's me. Genetically, that's what I'm really good at. You know, my power, my explosiveness. So, and for distance for me now would be 500 meters.
Okay.
That's,
Okay. I mean, it's interesting to come to that conclusion after, you know, basically a life in sport.
Yeah. I think, you know, you look at training and we talked before about training regime and regime being an ordered way of doing things. When I was a younger athlete and rugby player, there was no training. I was a much better decathlete than I was rugby player. I didn't train. I practiced, which is totally different. I would go and pole vault and high jump. I would never throw the javelin because that's the one I wasn't very good at.
Yeah.
You know, rugby, international rugby training involved driving from Newcastle down to Stourbridge for a Monday evening before the international. My second row partner played in France and he probably missed the flight and therefore there was no real value training. You drive all the way back in the middle of the night. You meet on the Thursday before the international and that was it. Never would you be given a training plan. This is how you become better. I remember as a student at uni, the gym we had was one of these multi-gyms and that was it.
Yeah.
Whereas now, on reflection, you have so many facilities. I mean, I was tested about 8 months ago at the uni for my VO2 max because I told myself, well, it's getting fairly close to my 70th birthday. It's only 23 months now. I better start. So I went and got tested, and you get loads of great information. And guess what I've done with it so far? Nothing, because I'm still miles away from the consequence of competing at my age group. And my life has been driven by having to meet a consequence, and that's got to be being fairly good. If it's not number one, there's got to be a reason why. You know, I spend all my time reflecting on why I didn't get to what I wanted to do and how I can do it differently and better the next way. But in the early days, there was none of that. But you weren't focused at all. A couple of exceptions. When I was a student, I was working at Gateshead International Stadium, and I was out on the track doing some 150s, and I saw a guy was running, and he was a pretty good runner. So I said, "Can I start training with you?" And for the 3 months of the summer, I trained with him every day. When we got to rugby pre-season training, and we're doing the pre-season stuff, so this is the sort of end of August, September, and you're running all 4 corner posts. I was beating all the backs. I was so fit because I had a focus with an athlete training program. And then in 2016, I decided I was going to bike to work every day. So I was doing 42 miles a day. And that was in the days of Strava and King of the Mountains. And I had to get 1 or 2 King of the Mountains every day. And I was just so fit, having had 2 or 3 years of riding to work every day, winter, summer. In the summer, I'd put on some extra time in the morning. I could not imagine now getting on that bike and riding to work in the winter.
Yeah.
But I know once I've done it once and I'm back in that groove, I'll be on it.
So one of the things I wanted to ask you is when have you been at your fittest? Because a lot of international rugby players will say that they've been their fittest after rugby.
Oh, without a doubt. When I finished rugby at 45, I got into triathlon, which I really enjoyed, and I got a couple of class places in my age category, which is over 130 kilo. I'm joking, not quite. There was no weight; it was actually in age. However, I can't run to save myself distances, but my swim and my bike were pretty good. I got fairly fit then, and then when I got to 50, I got on a rowing machine, and I thought I'd just see what I can do for 2K. And I checked my score, and it came me up in the top 10 for my age group. And I thought, right, I may as well have a go at this. So we had British Indoor coming up with about 4 months ago. So I met a guy called Eddie Fletcher, who became my coach for the 4 months. And he really got me in shape for that. And I won Burke, and I got second in the Worlds in Boston. And then, of course, stopped, because that was it, mission accomplished.
Yeah.
So I was fit there because Eddie was great. I was following a training pattern. There was a consequence of not doing it because I had to report every week what I'd done. And then, of course, the fittest I've been was that 3 or 4 years on the bike when I was going to work every day. We did a charity bike ride called the Four Stadiums for Twickenham, Cardiff, Dublin, Edinburgh. And there was about 100 riders on it. And I was the third best rider, fitness-wise. And obviously, the two guys were better. One was a GB biathlete, and the other one was a martial arts young lad who were probably 75 kilos wet through. So my excuse is always 110 kilos is a bit of a disadvantage. But I was really fit then because I had a focus. I was doing it every day. I was enjoying the bike riding to work. I do not, unfortunately, really enjoy that much getting on the road.
Okay.
And the beauty of this, as I told you at the beginning of this, I've got loads of excuses. I can't do distance on the road because this right leg, because my back goes numb after about 8 or 9 minutes. Can't feel my leg or my foot. So that gives me the chance to sit downstairs on my watt bike in the gym and just do 40 minutes, an hour of zone 2 training. And then I'll get on the road and do the sprinty stuff and enjoy that. Yeah. One of my other weaknesses, for example, what have I signed up to? Sam Locke, Cam Warren, Phil Clapp, Pete Marston's Pete Plan. I've been coached by Sam Blythe and Eddie Fletcher. So I've got all these training plans. And the most recent, Stefan, was Phil Clapp's, obviously.
Yeah.
And I started on Phil's, and I went, this is ridiculous. I'm 20 months away from the date where I need to do it. Put it to one side. It's a sort of 2 to 3 month taper, final, get ready. So I downloaded my old friend Pete Marston's Pete Plan on Monday, and I did a great, really 500 sets of 500 meters. But here's the problem. It should have been 2K minus 3 seconds. I did them all at 2K minus 11 seconds on a 20 stroke rate. And then the next time I do it, it's going to have to be quicker again. And
yes.
Just sometimes mentally. But then you get the angst after you finish the session, because if it wasn't hard and you weren't in pain and you actually enjoyed the session, well, was that the right thing to do?
Yeah, and then there's the fear afterwards that you won't be able to do it again. So you want to feel that pain, and try and get the results so that you feel that you're still there.
And it's demoralizing, because downstairs in the gym, I've got a rack with these training plans, and I've got all my I've counted yesterday. I've got 23 years worth of training diaries, none of which actually started anywhere near when I was an international rugby player. As I said before, there was no training. They started when I was about 45 and started the triathlon. I was looking back through them. And in 5-6 years ago, when I was really fit, I'm looking at the times I was doing, and I'm going, I can't. There's no way in the world. And so, you lose 2 or 3% of your VO2 max every year. I don't think there's any way. I don't think you can't get it back, can you? You just have to be the best you can be.
Yeah.
Which for me is actually number one.
And in the context of your rugby career, you just named some coaches, and we've been talking about coaching recently, but presumably, had you had great coaches as an international rugby player, it would have been a different game.
Oh, I went out for a few beers last Sunday with a guy called Dean Richards, who was a really good number 8 for England. We're sitting and we're talking about the physiology, this, that, and the other. And he said, Bino, that was my nickname. He said, if you'd been playing now, you would be the Eben Etzebeth of rugby, because I was really lucky genetically. I had 2012 watts power, sergeant jumper 32 inches. But we didn't have that support mechanism. For England in those days, Stefan, we would have what was called the probables against the possibles on a Sunday, who was going to be picked for the next Saturday. Now, if you're in the possibles, you just want to kick the out of your opposite number.
Yeah.
Try and injure them and make sure you got a chance. You put that to people nowadays, and you say, "What?" Before
Yeah.
it was very, very amateur. When they say the amateur era, God, the stories I could tell you about how amateur it was.
Yeah.
It's just.
But even though it was amateur, and it's nearly 50 years ago since that game against Wales that's on YouTube, you know.
Oh, yeah, Battle of Cardiff in 1987.
Yeah, I mean, it must feel like another life ago, really.
You look at the game and it totally is. How has the game changed now? Well, you can carry 130 kilos now as a forward because you're only playing for 50 minutes and then you'll be substituted. They'll get the technology coming off your heart rate monitor. You're in fatigue. Let's replace you.
Yeah.
We had to play for 80 minutes. So you couldn't carry 130 kilos. You got tired in the last 10, 15 minutes and made mistakes, and the game opened up. Nowadays, it's getting more like an NFL game than it is a rugby union game.
Yeah.
However, I played for like 20 years, and the guys might get 5 years out of professional rugby because of the hits.
Yeah.
It's a totally different game. We had one referee in international rugby. There was no touch judges. There was no cameras. There was no, and it was just a free for all.
Yeah. And do you think you'll be coached again? Do you think that? I mean, you're not going to stop, as you said. So
No, I'm not going to stop. And I wrote it all down about 6 months ago, called Project 126.7, which is the 70 age group 500-meter world record, which I'd like to go for. Sorry, Jeremy, but I must have a go at it. And I mapped it all out, and I went, it's too far away. It's not good, it's not professional, but I need something to be almost touchable and achievable.
Yeah.
But I know it's the wrong way to do it. I know I should be getting my endurance in now. I should be doing 80% zone 2. Now that the weather's changing, it's nearly 10 degrees up here, and because I won't get on my bike until it's double figures. Now that it's nearly 10 degrees, I'll be getting out on the bike and doing 2 hours endurance instead of 40 minutes on my walk bike downstairs in the gym.
Yeah. You've mentioned a few times writing things down or referring to bits of paper or diaries or whatever it is. So is that something that's important for your kind of, I don't know, your mental preparation or do you need to see something written?
Yeah, I have to have a record of what's happened. My definition of world class, like a lot of people, has been better tomorrow than you are today. And the key tool to increase that is one of reflection. So you reflect back on what you've just done, be it business or be it sport. So I can look back and went, okay, I've just picked up that session again. Let me go back 2 months and see. It wasn't so bad, because even though the wattage was down a little bit, the heart rate's down as well. So yes, without a doubt, everything's recorded. Don't do video. I've never critiqued my rowing technique, actually, which might be something. You see, I've got so many things that I've never done before, but luckily I've got 19 months to go and I don't even have to think about starting yet. I promise to stop that after this podcast. I'm going to really focus on the program.
You had a career in sales in recent years, and sales is a lot has a lot to do with targets, and then all the metrics you need to get to achieve your targets and your goals. It sounds like similar to the way that you describe your sporting preparation. You know, the step by step, the metrics, the numbers, how do you get there?
Yeah. When you say in sales, I worked in the motor industry for 40 years, not directly in contact with customers. My background, psychology. So my job within the companies I work for take me all over the world. Is the 2-pound lump of jelly and water you've got on top of your shoulders. Why do we do what we do? Or more importantly, why don't we do what we should be doing? So my last 40 years has been developing people by way of relationship, by way of delivering a brain-friendly experience to people in all aspects, not just the motor industry, but because it's common to everybody. How do you build trust and confidence in someone? And it's really simple if you understand how your brain works. But unfortunately, nobody ever tells you at school. They'll
Yeah.
tell you what happened in 1492. They'll tell you all sorts of history facts, which you'll never really need. But how does this head-top computer work? They don't touch it until it's almost too late, until you're thrown in to your first interview for a
Yeah.
job.
How would you teach that to kids? What can we do better?
Well, the first thing I say is YouTube. You know, when I was young, we didn't have the internet. Shows how well we are. You had to go to the library and get books out, and then you had to go through the book to find the section you wanted. Everything to help personal development is on YouTube. And
Yeah.
you can have an hour and a half neurophysiology lecture from a Harvard lecturer, or you can have a 10-minute little cartoon. You look at Steve Peters, the chimp with Team Sky. He's got little clips, cartoons on there talking about your amygdala and your chimp. And you don't have to be a scientist. You don't have to get into it in any great depth. It's fun and interesting, as in why we do what we do.
Yeah.
And it's fascinating and it's easy to understand. You just go on YouTube and just put in chimp paradox, for example, and then there'll be some clips. Put in emotional intelligence.
Mhm.
You know, they say that should be now on any annual report. The boards score on emotional intelligence, because you don't want to join a company or invest in a company where the guy's slightly to the right, the Genghis Khan.
Yeah.
You want to know that he's a balanced manager.
Well, I was just going to ask, when you're cycling for 2 hours, do you switch off? I mean, have you found mental calmness, or
No.
is your mind turning over the whole time?
Absolutely, turning over the whole time. And I wish I'd known about the chimp when I was playing international rugby, because I got sent off twice, 2 years in succession, I think 84 and 85. Playing for the club or playing for the county. In those days, Stefan, if you were sent off at any level, you missed the whole of the international season. You weren't selected.
Yeah.
So in 83, I got back from the Lions tour, voted one of the most improved players on tour, which meant I wasn't very good when I went, but at least over 3 months I got a bit better. And then I missed the next two internationals because of my temper, because I couldn't control. If I'd known about the chimp, I still react quickly to things.
Okay.
But I now have got my chimp's got a name. I know how to look after the chimp and calm him down without that knee-jerk reaction. But in those days, as I said earlier, rugby was about getting the better of your opposition. And if somebody hits you, what do? You hit them back. And if you get caught, you're sent off. We didn't have the discipline, and I personally didn't have the discipline in those days that I probably would have now, because I would reflect back on it a lot more. But also I think because it's your living nowadays, it wasn't our living. I remember when I went back from Newcastle Falcons back to my junior club when it turned professional, I still have my pay slip, which was £50 less tax.
Yeah.
So I became a professional rugby player.
Yeah. Yeah.
We used to get a bit of money before the internationals for wearing a certain boot, but I can't really say which boots and who gave us the money.
I think it's probably okay now. But did you have professional help to so that learning about the switch and how to manage your temper is self-taught?
Everything is self-taught. Yes, degree at uni, I was a teacher initially. So yes, we've done a lot of psychology, child psychology and everything else. So there was a background there, but no, everything. I have a passion for knowledge. You know, I've got all the books I've got are self-development.
Okay.
I'm not very bright. I've never thought of anything new in my life, but I have a thirst for knowledge. So I surround myself with interesting people in podcasts. You know, Peter Attia is phenomenal with some of the stuff he's talking about now.
Yeah.
I've got his book up there, which is Outlive. It's fab.
Yeah.
But that will take you off in a different direction as well, because they'll tell you about some things that are going to make you do this, do that, and then you start to get conflicting information. It's expensive. For me at the moment, I'm just trying to keep fit, not lose too much strength, and not put on too much weight.
And in that mix, how do you manage rest and recovery? Because if you know your brain's turning over the whole time, you've got to give your body time to relax and recover.
Yeah, my sleep is probably the weakness I have at the moment, because of the pain in my back every time I turn over. I sort of wake up. So I'm waking up at 4 o'clock. And then once I'm awake, the brain starts, and I'll get up at 5 o'clock and make my wife and I a cup of tea, and we'll get ready for the day. Recovery. I don't think about rest and recovery. I don't need to. I don't feel tired. I might have a body of a 68-year-old, which is falling apart, but my brain's an 18-year-old, as everybody will tell you when we go out at the weekend. But that's, and touch wood, it stays like that. I might be physically old, but mentally I'm not at all. And I love new challenges.
Yeah, yeah. So when you are coming up to a challenge, do you have a mental preparation kind of process? I'm guessing that you probably just get on and do it.
Yeah. Well, let's say when I got the what was it, 100, 1 minute, and the 500-meter world records, I had a 4-month schedule laid out. I had looked at all the supplements you could take, you know, all the bicarbonates, and I was taking 8, 10 caffeine tablets before each training session. I was doing absolutely everything that I read that I think that could support me getting to my goal. I then would look exactly what I was going to do. You know, the 1 minute's really easy because I know that I'm going to do 6 to 7 strokes as hard as I can. A few strokes later, I'm at 30 seconds, and all I've got to do is hang in. So for me, that is utopia. Because you see any of my training sessions, the last rep, no matter, well, probably the last 250 meters is really quick, because I like that end goal. It's that bit. What I could never do is sit on the road. I cannot believe some of my friends and colleagues I see posting on the diamonds, the distances they've done. I couldn't imagine that. They must be so strong mentally, or they must have some great music playlist to get through. I just want to get it done as hard as possible and get off and move on.
Or they have a calmer mind. I mean, you know, maybe they're able to just relax, you know, up here, and somehow that's not you, is it? I mean, you're constantly thinking about the next thing.
Yeah, that's it, a relaxed mind, which brings us to, I've read some people actually paste over the front of the monitor or turn the monitor the other way so they can't see their pace. What? How do you know you're not going slower than you did the last time? That's just so abhorrent for me, really, I think.
Yeah.
And it's a weakness of mine that it's got to be better than the last one.
Yeah. Yeah, is it a weakness? I don't know.
Yeah,
I mean,
no, I think it is. If depend what you're reflecting on. If I'm reflecting on last week's session, fine. If you're reflecting on something from 4 years ago, then you're being really silly because you probably can't hope to have put that session in again.
yeah.
You know, going back to that's better tomorrow than you are today. No, trying not to be as worse tomorrow than you were yesterday is probably more applicable to me at my age, because I am deteriorating in every area. There's nothing you can do about it. Luckily, go back to luck again, because my sporting career I've been really lucky. When I was a really good decathlete, and my coach was a guy called John Anderson from Gladiators. When I finished uni, he said, "You've got to make a choice. You can come with me. We'll probably get to the Olympics. Don't ever get anything, or you can continue playing rugby, enjoying yourself every weekend and having fun. What are you going to do?" And I obviously chose rugby, and I was really pleased I did that, Stefan, because when I was 51, so 50, I was second in the world, and then 51, I was still training fairly intensively. I picked up a bug 3 weeks before the event. Now, if I'd gone for the Olympics and you've trained for 4 years, rugby, you have a bad game on Saturday, you've got next Saturday to put it right. So I'm so pleased. And I also, when we go back to the look, which is a massive part of my sporting journey, when I was a student and I was an athlete, and I was playing a bit of rugby, I got a phone call from a guy who said, "Will you come to England students training trial session down in Yeovilton 3 weekends time?" And I looked on the map and I went, "Yeovilton, it's right down in the back of beyond. No, thank you. I'm quite happy." And he rang me 3 times and said, "We really want you to come on." And the third time I went, "Okay." And I went. So I got picked for students under 23, England B, England British Lions. If I hadn't have said yes, I don't know if that's sliding doors, existentialism, or whatever. If I hadn't said yes to that, I could have been like a lot of people, just a good rugby player.
Yeah. Well, great that you did. And careers can turn on small things. You've mentioned a couple of times that you're going to get to the next threshold shortly. Shortly
As in 19 months. Yeah, that's not short for me.
Yeah. So
that's a lifetime away.
But your intention is clearly to push the limits. And yeah,
you know what? I must have been just about to 67 when I found, because when I was 62 and I got 3 of the world records, I sort of stopped. And that was it. Got to wait till I'm 70. Then a couple of years later, I just went online and saw they'd put a new category in, which was 65 to 70. I was furious because I was 67. Luckily, I think I managed to sneak the 1 minute and the 100 meters. I was furious. How could they do that without telling me? But I must have. I just switch off and go on to something else. But now I have probably the best thing I can do is to break down the 19 months into sort of 3-month sections, and just keep at it. Injury, touch wood, no injuries. But we won't, because the new motto: everything in moderation and don't be stupid. I wouldn't be doing weights and going on the ergo if there wasn't an outcome, a consequence, as in not achieving the result you want, and the outcome being sort of number one or having a good reason for not getting there. I would be doing something more enjoyable.
But if you don't achieve, say you have a go at something, it doesn't work out. How are you? I mean,
you find out why. It's reflection again.
All right.
You know that you look at, pick any great small 100-meter winner, just retired Olympic world champion, Usain Bolt.
Usain Bolt, yeah.
What does he do every day when he's not competing? He trains.
Yeah.
Because he wants to be better the next day. If I failed to achieve the goal, there would be a reflection. And I got this bit from him about reflection, looking and analysing and breaking it down. It's the 1%, isn't it? They're going back to Team Sky. I would look which bit. Okay, so you didn't have enough weight on the front of the rower, or it was moving at the back, or you hadn't done this. I'd analyse, reflect. Why did I not hit that goal? And I wouldn't take any excuse for not doing it. I'd do it again.
Yeah.
Whatever it takes, until I'd exhausted all the possible reasons for not having achieved it.
Yeah.
Now, my new sport at the moment, which is chess, I'm the opposite to that. Chess, I play 10-minute chess, and all I want to do is if I lose, I just want to play the next game. No, it says, would you like to analyze your previous? No, I just want to play the next game.
Okay.
I'm the opposite when it comes to something where there isn't much consequence.
So has that obsession, I'm not sure if that's the right word, but that focus in your sporting life, and I ask this in the nicest possible way, made you selfish and focused on yourself?
Not to the extent of my family, no. I will always fit my training in early in the morning, or probably not at night, but certainly I'll find a time. If there was a family, for example, the reason I didn't train today is because I had to go and pick the guy up who does the gardening, because we have to go and look for a playhouse for my grandson this afternoon. So I didn't train today because the family came first. So I'm not selfish, but I am very disciplined, self-disciplined. My wife doesn't understand why I get up every day and go in the gym. Luckily, it's just downstairs, so it's not far to go, and it's got all the equipment I need. However, what it doesn't have is other people. So November last year, I joined a great new gym which had opened down in my little town. But that was the wrong thing to do, because you suddenly there'll be young kids on the platform, and you go, right, I'm just going to push my deadlift this time, and then push. this happened a few years ago. I totally blew my left hamstring. There's a big hole in this left hamstring doing ego lifting, and it's a weakness of mine. It's that going back to have to be the best. That guy might only be 25, and it's great when somebody stops. There was a big guy in last time I was there, and he said, "Can I ask how old you are?" And I said, "Well, I'm 68." He said, "God," and I said, "Why?" He said, "That's a great weight you're lifting there," and that's what makes me tick.
Yeah,
it's the ego. The ego is dangerous, but it's also the fact that if we go in the room next door where all the shirts and all the achievements are on the wall, there's 3 Concept 2 world records there. I haven't got them now. I've only got one now. I've lost one last Saturday. Congratulations, Phil, if you're watching.
I mean, the ego is dangerous, but it's also necessary to achieve in sport to a certain degree. But I think you've got it in control, Steve. I mean, do you feel you've got it in control now?
Ego, yeah. Would I do something if there was no results? Probably not. I'm trying to think of a sport where I would, if I played tennis, I'm going back to that, I would really enjoy, I'd like to be tennis. But if I played tennis and I didn't win and we didn't have a score, I would be happy, because I'd be happy playing tennis against a coach who was just making me run back and forward. He was so good that he's just made me, and I've hit some balls back, and I've had a great 40 minutes or an hour of really hard work, but I've been smiling.
Yeah.
Whereas my wife and I walked a couple of Sunday mornings ago around the river at Durham, and there must have been a big run on because there were hundreds of people. And she said, "I'm going to start running." I said, "Look at the people's faces. Have you seen anybody smiling yet? They're not enjoying themselves. They're doing it because they feel for some reason they have to do it, but they're not having fun."
Yeah.
And so for me, going back to your question, Seven, and no, the fun comes from the outcome, the end result, and there has to be a measurement on most things that I would be doing, I think. Whether it's a training session downstairs, I record every single in my diary downstairs, each rep, whether it's weights or row, and the bad bit is that they're never in better than they were years ago. But I was looking through the 82 training diary the other day, and the weight I was cleaning in those days, crumbs. But as my wife said, "You're stupid. You're not 23 anymore." But I said before, my brain is still 23.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's inspiring listening to you, Steve. Thank you so much. Thank you for your time and your perspective. It's, you know, you clearly think a lot about what you're doing, and a lot of people would appreciate that.
Well, it's been great, and I just hope for all of my Diamonds friends that they continue enjoying injury-free, growing and having fun. But
Absolutely.
I don't understand those guys that are doing those long distances.
Yeah.
Hats off to you guys and girls.
Yeah. Thanks, Steve.
Pleasure, Stefan. Take care.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye-bye.